Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here discussing some more Warhammer combat cards, and I got something special for you here today. This is a list of deck lists by none other than one of the developers, Mademp. You may know his name if you've been playing this game long enough. But yeah, he is the one who designed the vast majority of cards in this game. So I think more than anyone else, he knows best. And I was talking to him, and he came up with what he thinks are some of the best possible meta deck lists for each warlord in the game. We're starting here with Aeldari, going to look at each warlord one by one, and this is assuming you have all cards available in the entire game unlocked. And these are also cards at a very high level, so it's not really going to be relevant for a lot of players, but I think it is really interesting to see what the best cards are at the top tiers of ranked mode. And so this is for 200 point decks, so we're going to start off looking at each of the Aeldari warlords, starting with the Zephyr Blade. So we got a collection of powerful ranged bodyguards here. Obviously the legendary and epic cards, which have dual traits, are going to be extremely powerful at the top tier, so no surprises for some of these, which we'll see in other decks as well. The Crimson Hunter, an extremely powerful card with Outflank and Precision Shot. Even though it did get nerfed recently, it's still quite strong, but we do have a new contender for strongest ranged card, and that is the Void Raven Bomber right below that. That thing also has a massive ranged attack, barrage, and ranged scout. So extremely good card there. Malgan Ra also obviously very strong with the Precision Shot and barrage as his secondary trait. There's a lot of barrage in here actually. There's two cheap cards with barrage. Those cards aren't really that amazing, but you might as well have some extra AoE in there, and especially with the Zephyr Blade, you do want to include as many bodyguards as possible for that special rule. It does seem like Target Acquired is a very useful trait to have at least one bodyguard with that at the top tiers, in case you come up against a target that really needs to be removed at all costs. So that's why the Ranger is in there. The stats on the Ranger recently got buffed. For a while I wasn't using it at all, but I think it's reasonable now. And then we've got the Death Jester. That's an interesting choice. It's got fear and pretty good stats, I think. I don't run it myself. I just prefer going with like straight damage. But I could see it being useful just to mitigate some damage. And then of course we got the Razorwing Flock, 3 points with Taunt. It's a very useful card to have in any deck, really. So all around, lots of glass cannons in this deck, but massive damage output. Now let's compare that with the other ranged warlord, Illic Nightspear. We've got many of the same bodyguards. In fact, the only things that are different is that we have the 22-point Warwalker in here, which did recently get a significant buff to its stats. It's a very solid card, even though it's a common. Good damage output, and it can boost your attack for one turn. I don't really use this much Scout, I think, with Illic, because with this special rule, you only need to deal 65% of the base health of the target. So in a lot of cases, you don't really want to deal so much damage that you're just overkilling everything. But again, you do have to remember that at the top tiers, you're going to be running against things with lots of shields and fear, so you may need that extra boost to break through those cards. We've also got the 5-point Drukhari card, which with Medicae, which is extremely useful as a very cheap healer. Those are in high demand. Unfortunately, I don't have the card in my collection, but honestly, I'd probably throw that one in the Zephyr Blade deck as well, because yeah, you're just going to get a lot of value out of it. Now, if you're wondering which of the ranged warlords is stronger, I think Illic Nightspear is probably better. I got beaten by him several times in the PvP mode when everything was at max level. Just the amount of damage he was dealing and being able to zap things instantly to death, it was pretty brutal. Whereas the Zephyr Blade doesn't really scale quite as well when you have higher level cards. Now let's talk about the Psychic Warlord Eldrad, whose special rule just boosts all of your Psychers. Obviously you want to have all Psychers, as you can see here. We've got some pretty powerful cards in here, like the Farseer, which just does a massive amount of burst damage. We've also got the Wraith Seer, a very powerful and tanky card that has all 3 attack types and Silent Blast, which combos really well with Eldrad. We've got another very tough card, the Shadow Seer, with Shield, and it now has Anti-Infantry as a secondary trait. And then we got the 10-point healer with Medicae. Obviously, that's going to be an amazing choice. The other two in here, I don't think they're very good. We've got the 2 warlocks, one on the jet bike, the other on foot. The one on foot has psychic link, the one on the jet bike has anti-infantry, and neither of them are very strong, I think. But your options are pretty limited when you just want to run all psychers. Of course, Eldari himself at the max level is exceedingly powerful, just a massive amount of damage and a lot of health as well. One thing that's noticeably missing though from the bodyguards is there's no inspiring presence, which maybe you don't need because the things are dealing enough damage anyway, but Yvraine recently got buffed, so at the moment I am using Yvraine in my ranked Eldari deck. Let's move on to the melee warlord, the Avatar of Cain, who of course is very expensive and takes up a large portion of your deck. This is fairly similar in some ways to the deck that I am running in ranked. We've got obviously the Solitaire with Furious Charge and Deathblow, very powerful. Deathblow in particular combos really well with the Avatar. The other 2 legendaries I don't actually have at a high level, so I'm not running them in any of my ranked decks, but we've got Prince Uriel with Inspiring Presence and Outflank. And then we've got the Swooping Hawk's Phoenix Lord with Outflank and Furious Charge. Both of them are quite strong at the higher levels, and they do have a decent ranged attack as well as melee. And you'll see there are a couple ranged-only units in here, like the Wind Rider and the Scourge. Those are nice because they won't be the target of the special rule, but they'll basically boost the melee attack of your legendaries. We've got the 5-point Healer again. We got the Razorwing Flock. And then the 6-point Drukhari card, I think that's the one with... I don't have it in my collection, but yeah, it must be one of the cheapest cards with target acquired in the game. Again, if you need to take down a priority target, it's definitely going to be very useful, while still being cheap fodder, which works well with the Avatar special rule here. No bodyguards that are over 40 points, so safe from big game hunters. And of course the Avatar itself at max level, once that thing deploys, is going to be punching pretty hard as well. Moving on to Urien Rakarth. Of course, his special rule boosts the health of all your units whenever anything is killed, so you do want to run the full number of bodyguards. You could go any of the attack types with him, but Mademp's deck here is just focusing on melee, which I haven't really done so much with Rakarth, but yeah, looks interesting. We've got the Solitaire again, and Prince Uriel. We've also got Jane Zar, who has Fear. Definitely a good choice because with the increased health, Jane Zar is going to be very difficult to take down. Drazhar I'm not really a big fan of. I have tried him out a bit, but he doesn't really seem worth the points for just a mono melee attacker with big game hunter. He does have a Furious Charge as well, so I mean he could potentially be pretty powerful. Another iffy card for me in here is the Vizark, which is, yeah, pretty expensive for a taunt card, and again, only melee attack, so I guess with the increased health, he could be very tanky, just absorb a huge amount of damage. The Razorwing Flock makes sense, and then we finally have the Striking Scorpion Exarch, I believe. That one has target acquired, so again, if you need to take down a priority threat on the enemy field. I feel like overall this deck might not be as strong as the others. Once again, it's pretty much all infantry, so yeah, safe from big game hunters at least. And then saving the best for last, Lelith Hesperax is definitely one of the strongest warlords in the game. Just an insanely good special rule allowing you to reuse the traits when you redeploy cards. So we've got some really strong precision shots, the Crimson Hunter and Malgan Ra again, as well as Furious Charge from the Solitaire and the Swooping Hawk guy. We got the 5-point Healer, and then the Ranger with target acquired. So again, cards we've seen before, but even more powerful in the hands of Lelith. So there you have it, 6 very powerful top-tier decks from Mademp himself. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the choices here. I think even if you don't have a lot of these cards, at least maybe it can give you some inspiration on the type of builds you can use with these different warlords, and hopefully it'll help you out in ranked mode. But I'll continue and talk about the other factions as well, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.